I'm Sarah Lacey.
And I am Paul Carr.
You sound bummed about that.
No,
You shouldn't
I
have to
mean,
be
only
you.
as much as I ever am. I mean, it's
Well, I mean, but anytime you
the
should be
usual
bummed about
trauma of
that.
being me. I mean, it could be worse, I suppose. I could be someone else other than me. But
Could have been me last week.
you have a tough week? What
I'd
happened?
like to think we came out of it victorious.
I agree. I agree. Oh, the LA thing, the
Hmm.
Beachman thing. Yeah, I heard a bit about that. I didn't really
Yeah,
pay much attention. I think Lanny Davis is going to come on our radio show and talk about it.
I thought he was not.
Oh, that's right. You've reminded me. He pussied out. That's right. Because he said he was going to. I was remembering that, but I had forgotten that he then later completely went back on what he said. You're right. You've got more up to date information than I have. Yeah, he
Imagine
said
that.
he was going to do it, and then he said he wasn't going to do it. Changed his mind.
Got it. Depends on what your definition of the word is.
It's another. I read his book. I read Lanny Davis's book. He has three pieces of advice he gives to everybody he advises. He says, "Tell the truth, tell it yourself, tell it early."
Okay, so none of those apply
So
in the
he is
case.
speaking on behalf. He is
Yeah,
lying
so
on behalf of someone else. Late.
that's basically what he did. So by yelling at me, I represent the company. You can't talk to them. That would be
Tell
breaking
it
his rule
yourself.
too.
Tell it yourself. Tell the truth. Company's fine. Company's
Well,
fine.
or that we didn't correct the story. That was not true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good book
Yeah,
though. It tells you. It explains why it wasn't awful for him to represent those genocidal dictators.
that's good.
And how he stopped once they wouldn't pay him anymore.
That's good.
He actually, on a point of principle, dropped one of the clients because they didn't pay him and wouldn't take his advice.
Oh well, that is quite a
The fact that
principle.
his clients eat their victims, their opponents rather, that he didn't have an issue with, but he will not let a bill go unpaid. This is a point of principle. No, so anyway, so I don't know if I told you this, but I certainly haven't necessarily told the viewers of Why Isn't This News. So at the Not Safe for Work dinner
Hmm.
the other night, a roaring success. Thank you for asking. Um,
I did before this
somebody you
call.
did somebody who uh, doesn't work for Beachman, but has worked in their office.
Hmm.
He said, yeah, I don't really get that whole like Beachman story, and I thought, oh, here we go. And he said, yeah, I've worked out their office. They're fucked. And I said, well, that's that certainly was the story, but they're obviously debating. I was like, I don't really know who this guy is. I'm not really getting into it. He said, no, 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 they're fucked. Like I was in there, they were just all playing poker in the conference room, and, and I thought, Lanny, you better get that bill paid quickly because they're gambling away your money. But but I can say that you can't because you're a professional journalist, and you can't say that without calling the company to confirm that they are playing poker and not say
Right.
blackjack
Can,
or
can we just pause to acknowledge that almost every blog who wrote something about how horrible it was that Michael didn't call him first, not
didn't
knowing
call
any of the
Michael.
facts, didn't call either of us before writing
I
that
spoke to
story
somebody
to
from
ask
Tech.
if that were true?
I
Like
I
that's just the phenomenal hypocrisy of the blogosphere.
No, it's totally different. I spoke to somebody at TechCrunch the other night, and he said, "Well, I don't know what the truth is of the story." And he seemed to, like everybody is saying, like he clearly believed.
Yeah, I have no facts at all,
I
but
have no facts at all, but he, except insofar as it's widely known that Beachman is in serious trouble. He said, but it would have avoided a lot of this if Michael had just called the company first, even though everyone knew they were going to lie and just they would have to just say there was no comment.
mhm.
It would have taken that off the table. And I said to him, yeah, I read TechCrunch's coverage of the story, and it had the quote from David O, or whatever his name is, from Beachman saying how Pando was wrong. And I said, do you happen to know if the reporter at TechCrunch called Pando? He did not know. I have later verified they did not.
No,
They did not.
no.
But
And
I
it's
guess
funny.
that's
I was
different.
also talking to Dave Morin last week, and he was telling me about all of the damage that the totally made up $1 billion valuation path was supposedly raising money at that TechCrunch wrote a couple weeks ago, how that screwed up his fundraising. And guess what? They didn't call him either.
That's
So
weird.
shockingly enough, publications that go apeshit about our lack of calling people without calling us to actually understand if
Let's be
that's true
clear,
or
by the
not
way.
routinely don't do that.
As
It's
I
just
said-
like,
As I said to the person at TechCrunch, to be clear, I'm not saying that TechCrunch necessarily is right or wrong to call Pando. If TechCrunch believed that they had the story about Pando dead down and they thought
Yeah.
that Pando wouldn't respond, I actually don't give a particular fuck either way if they called. What I'm saying is, if your position is,
right.
regardless of history, you should always call, you really need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my
But that's
position.
the astounding thing, to be writing an
hypocrisy
article
that's my
saying
position.
that, and this same article not doing it. But I mean, are we really surprised?
I am not surprised. If it's a show of hands, I'm not surprised. Anyway, I don't really have much more. I'm sad. I think your statement on the subject, I think your interview, if anyone watching this hasn't seen your interview with Jason Calacanis, I thought that was great because Jason is clearly Team Beachman, or clearly went into it Team Beachman. You know, he was looking for you to to sort of grovel and apologize, and I thought it was a really good interview because he definitely wasn't somebody who was friendly toward. He's friendly towards you and to Pando, but he wasn't friendly towards your side of the story at all.
Right.
He acknowledged, you know, he's good friends with Diego, everything else. I thought it was a great interview, and I thought, you know, Rafat Ali, who has been critical of Pando in the past and of you in the past,
Well, and me,
And of you.
since I was born.
Well,
I
he
think
said, quote,
when I came out of the womb, he was like, "That was pretty annoying the
I
way
don't
she did it."
approve of the way. Why is she crying?
It's all about her.
But Rafat Ali, who I respect for what he's done, I thought paid content, what he built with paid content was great. Everything else, he said, "quote I'm on Team Sarah." Like it was,
She's never said in his life.
which I don't think he's ever said. He must have like struggled to form the words. But the point is, I think if you want, there's no point in us going massively back and forth on it. I think if you want to see an actual good discussion on it, the Jason Calacanis interview is probably the best there will be because you had an interviewer who was inclined towards Beachman. You had two guests
In LA, yeah.
LA. You had two guests, you and somebody who has criticized you in the past. I thought it was a great discussion. It wasn't a. I'm not saying Jason ended the interview by saying, "Oh, I completely agree with Sarah," but it was a decent analysis of the facts, and I thought you both presented your sides very well, and I thought it was fair. I don't think there's anything to add since your statement of since your open letter saying we just want to talk to you, and then Lanny Davis said he would gladly come on Not Safe for Work Live and discuss it, and then when lots of Not Safe for Work Live people said you should definitely do that, that would be fun, he decided actually he had better things to do than he said I don't need to dispute. He said I don't need to come on because Cara is denying indisputable facts, and I said to him, if they're indisputable, you should definitely come on because you're going to wipe the floor with me. Like,
Yeah.
the only issue is if these indisputable facts cannot withstand a single question. If his indisputable facts crumble at a single question, he definitely shouldn't come on the show because he's in real trouble.
Well, this is what I didn't get about the call that I had with him. Is he opened it by saying, like, you know, I think you will agree that if I prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I show you clear evidence that these claims were false, you will update them. And I said, we absolutely will. What is your evidence? And he said, these claims are false. And I said, can I speak to the company? And he said, no. I said, can you actually show me evidence? And he said, no, I'm just telling you. And it was like, well, that I wouldn't say that's indisputable evidence. You calling me and telling me as someone paid by the company.
Yeah. No, I
Does
will
that
say
work
this.
in DC?
It's
I mean,
not-
that's what I wonder. Was he phoning this one in, or does that
Yes.
actually work?
Yeah, he sent out a press release about you and about
With my
Pando,
name spelled wrong.
and he spelled your name wrong. No, I've never said these words before, and I'll probably never say them again. In fairness to Lanny Davis, Lanny Davis. Sorry, now I'm misspelling his name. In fairness to Lanny,
Your TechCrunch.
in fairness to Larry David, Seinfeld was excellent. No, in fairness to Lanny Davis, I don't think he's bringing his A game here.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I probably wouldn't have invited him on the show if I thought he was bringing his A game because he'd probably fucking kick my ass. He's very, very good at
He's
this.
very good at what he does. Yeah.
The reason why it's so exciting about the idea that he said, and by the way, I am not suggesting for a minute that if Lanny Davis had ignored my initial request or said, I'm not coming on your 2-bit radio show, I absolutely would respect that because why the fuck? The guy does like real television every day. He doesn't need to come on my bullshit radio show. These are mattress pads, to be clear. But let me say, he
They
said,
look like horrible, like Keith Haring drawings.
He said-
Like, where's the little guy?
that's me right here. He said,
Could you just walk an Egyptian?
He said, I will come on the show. He was the one who said. And it was only when our listeners of the show said, this is going to be great, did presumably he take the time to figure out what this show was and realize, ooh, I probably won't come on the show after all. it doesn't sound like they're gonna. I think the whole thing basically is. I'm sure he went to the meeting and said, "Let me get this right. You need me to get a headline changed on a blog and put a blog out of business. Yeah, I could do that. Blogs aren't that hard. I'll tell you what. Let's do it for 10 grand. We'll do it in an afternoon, and then we'll all go for drinks." And then I think he slowly realized after he learned how your name is spelt. I think he possibly Googled. And then when all these other people started jumping in, I think Lanny's kind of stuck doing what he thought was, he probably staffed it out to like an assistant. And now he's like, oh, I actually have to fucking defend these company. And by the way, if when he went to the office, they were still playing poker in the conference room, he probably was like, oh. Which is why he wouldn't answer your question about the health of the company. Like, all he would say was, these 2 facts, you must apologize. But he wouldn't actually comment on the health of the company. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I am.
What happened there? You went and then you
I
came back.
I don't know.
Do you think in some way Lanny Davis is involved in affecting this internet connection?
Probably.
There's nothing he won't stoop to apart from coming on our show. So, there's no depth he won't scoop to apart from this show. So anyway, that's that. I don't think there's anything more to say, really. I think, hopefully, they'll talk to you.
I hope so.
And here's the other thing, just to be clear on what my position is on this. I wish I had some carrots. I'd say that. I wish I had some of those delicious-looking baby carrots. My position on this, by the way, actually now... Why are you doing this to me? I've got an empty bottle of Diet Coke. That's it. Fuck you. Lanny's right about you. You're a monster. Valleywag's right about you. You're a fascist. So... The very
Chuck
definition...
said that they referred to me as an anti-labor activist.
No, they referred to you as a fascist the other day, and then even they had to change the headline because I guess somebody emailed them the definition of the word fascist. It's like, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure you're the definition of the word fascist. Then
It's
you look it
sad
up
when
and go,
even Valleywag has to change a headline.
That's true. There we go. They're very quick to change headlines and not acknowledge it. That's what we should all be aspiring to. They they had a launch party for their new photography site the other day. This big lavish rooftop thing with free drinks and free food. Weirdly, Valleywag did not comment on the wastefulness of the media elites playing on a Gotham rooftop, eating and drinking free food. It's almost like that time they attacked Spike Lee for... Was it Spike Jones? Which one was today? One of the Spikes. I should check.
Spike Lee was the one on Kickstarter.
Oh, Spike Lee, thank you. They attacked Spike Lee today for raising money for a Kickstarter, even though he has millions of dollars. Like that time they did with Rob Ford, the crack starter. It's weird that whoever writes Valleywag today, Biddle who writes Valleywag, doesn't appear to read Gorka.
Or anything.
It's lucky that he doesn't, because he'd be outraged by some of the things that go on there. Because they're exactly what he criticizes every day. But at least it's not run by a rich guy who underpays his employees. Oh, wait, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's run by that guy who's being sued for not paying his interns. Unlike Google, who overpays his interns according to Valleywag. It's outrageous that Google pays its interns $20,000. Why not take a leaf out of Gorka's book and pay them nothing at all?
That's the way. That's what you should do.
And be sued for it.
That's what union workers would want.
That's a pro-labor activist right there. We're going to pay you nothing.
I know.
Isn't it? I can't decide if it's a good or a bad thing that the people who... Oftentimes these debates and the sort of pro-anti-Pando thing are divided into two sides. I can't decide whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that all of the people in the anti-Pando camp have shown themselves to be such hypocritical idiots. Because I actually quite welcome a back and forth in a debate, and it's either a good thing because it just shows, you know, if you can judge how right you are by the people opposing you, or if it's just depressing that you have to spend your day being criticized by hypocrites and idiots.
I think it's depressing.
You do think it's depressing? Yeah, I go back and forth.
So I'm doing this call from our new office space. And apparently the internet's been compromised because someone who works here has been downloading a lot of porn.
Only one person in a San Francisco shared office has been downloading porn.
Well, I mean,
Are they
can I
downloading it
just?
now?
I don't know.
That's odd.
Jeff said, "I'm only reading an SFW Corp." Um, I'll tell you what's weird about it. There's not even a place for me to like pump. Like, there's not even a place private enough for me to pump in this office. I don't know where people are downloading the porn.
Well, maybe
What
that's
they're
why
doing with it.
That's why the private areas are closed off. Is that people are just furiously
All right.
masturbating in there.
Anyway,
Man. That seems more right, though. In a San Francisco workplace, there would be private rooms for porn masturbation and no private rooms for breastfeeding. That sounds about right. Rachel Sklar is so right. Why won't we change the ratio between breastfeeding and masturbation in the office?
I don't know.
Where's my New York Times trend piece?
What were we saying before I had to call you back? I had
Lanny
something
Davis
to say.
is a prick.
You were saying that. I was not
Oh,
saying
you were
that.
not, because you're.
I found him a very collegial man to talk to.
I would like to be clear, by the way, when I just called Lanny Davis a prick, I did not call him beforehand. I should have called him. Lanny, I'm hearing rumors from myself that you're a prick. I wanted to give you a chance to refute that
Oh,
before
Lord.
it becomes public record, because I'd hate for people to Google you, Lanny, and see bad things. Like that time the New York Magazine said you only get hired when people have done very, very bad things, or when the New York Times called you a representative of the dark side. The New York Times. Can you imagine how hard it is to get... The New York Times had to issue a correction the other day because they referred to the shooting of Trayvon Martin as a crime. And they said, to be clear, the guy was found innocent, ergo, it was just a shooting. They didn't want to call the shooting of Trayvon Martin a crime, but they called Lanny Davis a representative of the dark side, and that remains uncorrected or clarified.
By the way, the New York Times has taken several pot shots at me, so like, let's not go on a bandwagon. The New York Times always writes fair things about
I am
people.
simply saying they felt the need to be fair to George Zimmerman before they felt the need to be fair to Lanny Davis. I'm not suggesting that Lanny Davis has ever chased an unarmed African-American teenager through a gated community and shot him at close range. I'm just saying that if he did, the New York Times would have a more favourable opinion of him than they currently do. All right. What else is going on? Have you been doing any Pando stuff apart from this bullshit?
No, this was Pando stuff. I mean, I have to say, it is, well, no, but I was going to say, I think it actually is a very, very important part of my job. Like, this is the one thing that I feel like I should actually, like, drop everything and deal with personally, is when we have something like that going on. Because, like, you remember that time, and I'm really not saying this to pick on him. It's just an example, because it's easy to do. Like, there was some story that, I can't remember who did it, someone at TechCrunch, and they were like, Pinterest is the fastest growing company of all time, even though like Formspring had grown faster or something. And like they had and Eric was like, yelling at Chris Sacca on Twitter. And then he was like, and then Sacca would like, gave him some sort of like, I don't know, definitive proof the headline was wrong. And Eric was like, well, anyway, I didn't write the story. And it's like,
yeah,
wow, like you really don't know how to be an editor. And like, I do think that, you know, speaking for your publication and having your reporters back, I mean, it goes to say what I've said before, that I think like in this era of like journalism, editors-in-chief and CEOs need to be the same person. And I think last week was like a great example of that. Like, because I imagine if we had an outside CEO, there would have been like way too many conversations between that person and me.
That's what happened at the Onion.
You know?
That's when the Onion apologized for its writers. Yeah. No, you know what seems to, for me, have been missed in this story, which is good that it's been missed, but it's worth mentioning on the show, is you didn't write the original story. A Pando reporter wrote the original story. Now, you could have very easily done the Eric trick, and this was Eric, the new Eric, not old Eric, right? This is...
No, it was Schoenfeld.
Oh, it was Schoenfeld?
Mm-mm. It was the one who actually showed up for work.
Oh, Schoenfeld, okay. No, sorry, I couldn't remember which Eric it was. Eric, by the way, who has a great history of getting stories right, see Last FM, the reason I ended up at TechCrunch. And they always correct their stories. So the point being, you could have very easily pulled a Schoenfeld and just said, look, one of our junior writers or newer writers, you could have painted him as whatever, wrote this. Obviously, it needs to be corrected. You know, even though you knew it was even though you knew it was right, even though you knew the sources were good, whatever else, or even though you knew the company's history of lying, whether it's right or not, obviously the headline was wrong. You could have just basically thrown Michael under the bus.
Yeah,
And
it would have been easier for me.
the very fact that everybody is talking about this story as if it was you who wrote it, and the very fact that you wrote we stand by this and said, as Pando, we stand by this. The fact that everybody's talking about it being you versus Beachman is incredibly telling, because it basically you've done, and I do the same and not safe for work. The point is, the buck stops with the editor.
Mm-hmm.
You signed off on the story, you hired the writer. It is your story. You don't get to say, we regret somebody else's error. And the very fact, regardless of everything else, the very fact that you're the one who's getting all the shit for it, that to me is exactly what an editor should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's, of course, because the only people who would possibly comment on that would be other tech blogs who are writing about this, and they're so busy seeing this as an opportunity to go after you for whatever issues they have had. It's very interesting still to see the list of people who have decided to get in a shot at this, and it's all people.
I have to say, I will give Dylan Tweeney from VentureBeat credit. He, I think immediately when I put up the first story, said, I don't know what the truth is or not, but I give Sarah credit for backing her reporter and not backing down.
Oh, he did say that? Good. Because I don't understand how that is. That seems to have gone by the radar, which I guess it should have done, because if you were out there celebrating the fact that you had done that, you wouldn't really be doing that. So
right.
But it's worth noting that, is somebody dying behind you?
Yes. Unfortunately, I gave Kathleen the horrible cold that my whole family's had.
That office seems like it's just germs galore.
It's everybody my house. In that the office is relatively germ-free. She made the mistake of coming to my house.
Everybody in that office needs to wash their hands immediately for one reason or another, is all I'm saying. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the evil Lanny Davis anymore, I think you've been very clear. It's that you want, that you've corrected the story. And it's weird now, they're almost trying to spin it into that you still haven't corrected it. They're sort of still going, well, why should we speak to her when she won't correct it? It's like, to be clear, you've corrected the story, you've apologized for the errors, and you've changed the headline.
Yeah.
As far as you're concerned, the matter is closed, right? I mean, you're still reporting on Beachman.
Well, I would love to write more, but not until the company talks to us.
Right,
we've continued to report even after the fact, and we have a lot of sources who most, certainly dispute this picture of health that the board letter displayed.
That to me was the weird thing about the story, was up until they had a really good, I saw the magic of Lanny Davis where he had cleverly focused it on what are definitely the two most important points, which is the founders are still there, the money hasn't been returned. That's obviously what you focus on, because those are the two demonstrably, at the time the story went out, untrue points. Now, it was really weird to me when they decided to try and widen that into, we've never discussed replacing the founders, we've never discussed returning capital.
Which I simply don't think it's true.
It isn't true.
And even Jason said this. Jason said, every board is looking at all of the options all of the time, particularly with a struggling company. And we've talked about 3 different primary sources who say they were approached by the founders about a, quote, face-saving acquisition of Beachman. So it is just not true. I don't know why they would have. I've had a lot of off-the-record conversations about it. I don't know why they would have signed it. I wouldn't have. Yeah. But what I found really weird about it was when I talked to Lanny Davis on the phone, I said, well, we have a lot of questions. We think the story was directionally right. And, we have a lot of questions about it. What sources have told us and the health of this company. And he said, well, I'm not disputing that anything about the story being directionally right. I'm not disputing anything about the health of the company. I am simply disputing that these 2 things have not happened yet.
Right.
He was very clear. And so I don't know why. So they were never even asking us to make that direction about the Asian deal that fell apart, about all the other things that we reported in that story. They never disputed that. And then there was this overreaching board letter. I don't think it was a good move for the board.
Well, no. Or maybe, look, maybe they revisited their numbers. Maybe after the story they thought, we should just check how good the company's doing. Maybe we'll have a look. And they looked and thought, oh, we're doing great.
I still don't think it's true that they never considered it, though.
No, that's a good point. There's literally no way you can spin this where it's not a lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not. And
Yeah.
the best I've heard is, oh, well, it's very carefully worded.
No,
We
it
said there
isn't.
was year-over-year growth. We said we're happy with the company. That doesn't mean it's in good shape. Yes, that means it's in good shape to
Yeah, it's
me.
not. Yeah,
And it's like,
as a board, you're not happy. You are. It's your job to be not happy if the company is failing.
yeah. There's unfortunately, this is one of the situations that made no one who got close to it looked good. You know, I don't think
Yeah.
it made us look good.
No, I
I think
agree.
we did the best with a shitty situation. I don't think it made us look good. I don't think it made Beachman look good. I don't think it made Lenny Davis look good.
But the
I
weird
don't think
thing
it made the
is,
board look good.
But the weird thing is, and again, it seems to have been painted this idea that like you've got you in one corner who's refusing to back down, and you've got Beachman in the other corner. It's just not true. You've corrected and apologized, and you've
No. And the other thing is every other blog who's written about this has acknowledged the company's in trouble.
yeah
There's no one, even the company, even Lanny Davis, who said the company's not in trouble, except for the board, which
yeah
signed a statement saying it.
yeah. It seems to
I
me
find that really weird.
that's when things got weird because it's like okay, we can argue till the end of time that whether they had ever discussed it, whether it was going to
Yeah.
happen, whether you reporting it changed it happening, but to go that step further and go, no, fuck it, we're going to say the company's doing great. That's to me, that's mental because the company's just written a piece for some bullshit
Yeah.
like Puff blog saying that how Beachman is surviving teething troubles. So it's like they're not even really saying like they are agreeing that there's trouble. Like it's why would you say that everything is fine? Like I don't
I
get
don't
it.
know.
But
I
anyway,
don't
but
know.
that's
I
not
mean,
what we're, I mean.
I
But
hope to
look,
be able to ask all of them that question. I've reached out to several people who signed the letter who I've known before and had a relationship with before, and several of them have not even been willing to have a conversation.
which is fine. That's their prerogative.
But you know, it's a small valley. We'll have a conversation about it again in the future.
I think it's I don't know. I just think it's just very very strange, and I think it's very strange the way that yeah, the way the company is still trying to spin it as you will not correct, you will not back down, you know, blah blah blah. When it's like, I don't know what more they can actually expect from you at this point, and really, it's a question of your job now is to carry on reporting
Yeah.
Beachman like you report
Well,
any
they're
other
just trying
startup.
to obfuscate the facts. But what I don't get about it, I get all that because it's very similar to the Bill Clinton, you know, Monica Lewinsky cover-up playbook.
Exactly the
not
same.
surprising. It's the same person. I mean, it's the, you know, depends on what the definition of is, you know. But that having been said, what I don't get is if you were to, I haven't done this, but I imagine if you were to Google Pando Daily or Google Sarah Lacey, nothing related to Beachmint would even come up in the first page. I think if you
I
probably
assume there'll be
Google
news results.
Beachmint,
I assume
yeah,
there'll be
I
news
think if you
results, but not
probably if
hard
you
results.
Google, right, if you Google Beachmint, probably a million things only related to this come up. I don't know why they didn't let it go once we corrected it. Once we corrected everything they asked for and they didn't want to talk to us further. I don't know why they didn't just let their positive story play out if they were so convinced it was true. Like that will never, I'm not a crisis manager, but that will never make sense to me.
So I'm answering your question now. Um, top result is your Twitter, then your Wikipedia, your own site, Panda Daily, obviously, and then 1, 2, 3. There are 4 stories. There are 4 things on the front page about things that you have been involved in recently. They are all to do with the union stuff over Bart. They have nothing to do with this. There is nothing. There's no mention of Beachman. In searches related to Sarah Lacey, which suggests what people are looking for, the only big one, the only annoying one is like Sarah Lacey pregnant, which is great. Sarah Lacey husband, lots of disappointed people googling that. But then Sarah Lacey Mark Zuckerberg, like that's
Yeah.
it. You know, where I'm going to try Beachman. Not that this, by the way, is a scientific anything, but that's search for Sarah Lacey. Let's try Beachman.
Googling Sarah Lacey husband. I'm impulsive since everyone thinks I'm still pregnant.
That's because people keep using pictures of you pregnant. So top result for Beachman is Beachman. Second result, Beachman still wants Panda Daily retraction. Third result, TechCrunch. Beachman found a rebuke report about it's rebut. You fucking idiot.
I know. We
They're
were
fucking
laughing about
illiterate.
that on Yammer.
Rebuke report. You fucking illiterate, fucking talentless fucking hack. Business Insider, Beachmint Fells returns 20 million. Pando's update on the story. Beachmint Battle of the Blogs. Beachmint Crunchbase. Crunchbase is like the 7th result. Beachmint founders were not being fired. Then Beachmint's Twitter. Then Women's Wear Daily. Beachmint still open. The entire front page, apart from their own site and their Twitter, is about you or the story that they're rebuking. I think the biggest thing that I just learned is... the biggest thing that's just shown me is reminded me how illiterate TechCrunch is. I rebuke that. You what?
Well, and I love that no one thought to change it.
They don't change headlines at TechCrunch, Sarah. Apart from when they do, there's a great episode of the IT Crowd or the IT Crowd, whichever you're supposed to pronounce it, about people who slightly mispronounce famous phrases. And there's this bit where somebody says, "I don't mean to put you on a pedal stool." And there's another bit where somebody says, "I don't mean to be a damn squid." And and I just think that rebuke might just have entered that.
All right,
I'm sorry, I have to rebuke that.
We should actually stop talking about this.
I tried about it.
I know. Tell us
I
about
said
your
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Tell us about your
I rebuke the fact that you are saying that I wanted to talk about this. This is a rebukal. I'm issuing a stern and unequivocal rebukal.
Tell us about your conflict dinner.
No.
Please.
All right. So we did the conflict dinner.
Uh-huh.
Full house. We
Really?
actually sold. We had all the people who said they were going to come from the conflict tower. Plus, we sold like half a dozen of the tickets that people said that they couldn't come and said they were happy for us to resell them. We sold all those as well. Turns out our readers are not nuts. I was just assuming they'd all be nuts.
You said they were nuts.
Well, let's define nuts. No, I thought they were going to be psychopaths. I thought we were going to be killed. I think they're nuts the fact that some of them have given $3,000 or $4,000 extra above their subscription in order to fund us. That they are nuts on that front. One of our Conflict Tower people, by the way, who has already spent close to $5,000 on Conflict Tower rooms, when the check came at the end of dinner and I sort of like discreetly was taking it and signing it, he tried to take it off me and pay for our dinner check. The dinner that is to thank the Conflict Tower people for their assistance, he tried to pay that check. And when I refused, we did the after party at the W and he sneakily paid the check for that and then left. Like,
that's amazing.
We have a strangely loyal readership who we adore. Like, it's actually really... But it was really heartening. They were a lot of people who were real... What it was, here's the thing, they weren't fans. They didn't come across as people who were just like, "Oh, I just love you guys." They were really smart, interesting people who just want to see journalism, particularly the kind of journalism we do, continue. There weren't like crazy lines of people being like, "Oh, I love your work." You know, except insofar as they want us to continue doing what we're doing and they want journalism like ours to thrive. A lot of them were people who were involved in media themselves. Some of them were journalists. Some of them were, Pando's Adam Pennenberg came along. So we're doing our San Francisco dinner, where all of our nuts readers will actually...
Daily, Sarah Lacey get to come?
We're actually... Wait, does who get to come?
Pando Daily, Sarah Lacey. Since Pando Daily's Adam Pennenberg came to the New York one.
Sarah Lacey's Pando Daily. Pando Daily, Sarah Lacey will be very welcome at the show, at the dinner, not least because... Also welcome would be Sarah Lacey's husband, who is the designer of Not Safe for Work in Print.
He's designing it right now.
So, good. It's going to be a hell of another hell of an issue.
I gave him my big monitor to use.
Good. Because it's a big magazine. So yeah, no, I'd love it if you came. It's actually, so we're probably going to do it on August 2nd. You're hearing that first.
Oh, you know what? We almost had our New York Panda Monthly that week. I'm glad we didn't.
I'm glad too. So we're still looking for a venue. That's the only thing. I think Chris.
Do it at our house. Just do it at our house.
That's a horrible idea. Our readers are nuts. So I think Topics, Chris Tollers, who you and I know, is going to sponsor part of it as well, which was very nice of him. So it'll be food and drink courtesy of Topics, I believe. But that's TBD. I'm going to wait and see if he actually sends a check or if he's just all talk.
I can't wait for his random troll to go after you.
Oh yeah, every time we mention topics, that weird old freak comes along. She might be one of our readers. They're all nuts. But 2nd of August, we're doing the Pando Monthly, and we're actually, we're doing the Not Safe for Work conflict dinner. We're not doing Pando Monthly. The Pando Monthly is not on that day. We're doing, and it's...
You're welcome to start doing them. They're quite a lot of work.
No, I've seen. I don't... No.
Don't offer drink tickets.
We're... Never. We're gonna do Conflict Tower dinner 2nd of August in San Francisco. The broad theme is future of citizen journalism, because the broad theme of the New York one was future of journalism. This one we thought, given it's San Francisco, let's make it a bit more crowdy. So we'll probably, in New York we had Adam was there, obviously Clay Shirky came along, a bunch of like really interesting people were there. Nicholas Sarkozy's former digital advisor who did all of his like digital strategy was there. Some guys from the BBC were there. People who had written for the Times and the New York Times, the Guardian in the UK. There were loads of really interesting journalists there. What are you doing? I can't see. It's too blurry. I can't see. Is it porn?
You can't?
No.
No. It's me. It's Hallie's comic of me saying everyone must have as much free beer as they want with pointy teeth and rage.
I have seen that. We'll put it in the post because I can't. Yeah, you're too blurry. So for this we're gonna get some citizen journalist type folks. Oh, that's better. That's an angry panda.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so we're gonna have some citizen journalism type folks there. We actually at the New York dinner we had the guy. You know that famous picture of the plane landing in the Hudson?
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be the future of citizen journalism. The guy who took that was there, which was quite nice. I asked him where he was when the San Francisco plane crashed. I said he wasn't doing his citizen journalism job properly. He didn't have a good excuse. Apparently he was at work.
Nuts.
So that was good. August 2nd, save the date. And we're going to do what we did. We're going to do a bit more organized this time because so many of the Conflict Tower people said, be more than happy for you to resell my ticket if it gets more money for the future journalism with jokes. So we will have a set number of tickets on sale for the dinner as well. Yes, probably a dozen or so, which will sell. And people who buy those, they can't go in the Conflict Tower because the Conflict Tower is a separate thing. But we're going to make a little thing where they'll be in as well, so that conflict is disclosed.
An annex. An annex.
Like an annex, sort of an annex. We've been planning out different things, like a basement maybe we talked about. Which gets creepier as you go. A garage was another option. A shed. We're still figuring it out, but you'll be able to find out when you buy a ticket to the Pando Monthly. Again. I forget what show I'm on because it says Pando Daily behind. I keep forgetting that we're not for once talking about your events. But when you come to the Conflict Tower dinner, you will end up in some sort of shed. Apart from that, we got the new print edition coming out, which is going to be great. We've got a full house here at the new Not Safe Work headquarters. James Aylett's in town from London. He'll be at the Pando Monthly. Fuck me, the Conflict Tower dinner. Jesus. He will also. We've got Yasha's in town.
Are you sure it's the readers who are nuts?
I have, honestly, the blurred lines between my role at Pando and my role at Not Safe for Work this past week. I don't know how Lanny Davis keeps it together. How he's not saying, Bill Clinton did not eat that man's testicles and bury him in an unmarked grave. Meanwhile, the dictator did not have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. I cannot keep it all fucking together. He's probably bigging up Martha Stewart's e-commerce, LA-based e-commerce shoe site. He's probably.
Did he step for Martha Stewart too?
When she got done for insider trading, she was the first one, and her attorney said, "No way, not this guy, nuh-uh." And the whole opening chapter of his book is about how he ignored them. And
wow,
he was fighting for her. He also did Cunard, the cruise line, when this guy like fell overboard, and there was a whole question about whether he'd been murdered. And they talked about how they got, and basically the cruise ship handled the investigation really badly. They like hosed off all the blood, rather than like keep it as a crime scene. And there's a whole bit about how his job is to craft good messages. and they brainstormed not about, who had done wrong, not about whether there was a murder, not about any of that. They needed a snappy catchphrase for the media, and they came up with, "We're a cruise line, not CSI." And they were originally going to go with, "We're a cruise line, not detectives," but they thought, no, popularize it, CSI. So that was all his. It was similar to when he negotiated to get some more, when Obama didn't want to give helicopters to Pakistan, and he came up with a whole quote about how it wasn't fair on Pakistan that he gave to the media. It's very, very... He's really good at snippy phrases. Such as, "I'm not coming on your show. I don't know anything about the health of Beachman. Stop being mean. Get me the number of the LA Times." Those are all his.
I love that you couldn't even see the LA Times leak because it was behind a paywall. I was talking to one person in LA, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't even see any of this." And I was like, "Yeah, it was in the LA Times." He's like, "Hang on." He's like, "I can't pull it up behind a paywall." It's like, brilliant move.
You know what, Lanny? When you come on the show, I'll tell you about unlocks. We found them a really good way to get content out in front of an audience. That thing he lined them up for Vader TV must have got a lot of visits, though, I think. I get a lot of my news from them.
Now, let's not create more enemies. We already have enough.
I don't have any. I'm enemy-free, me. Lanny and I chat on Twitter all the time. We're pals. People from TechCrunch call me up. Hope everything's okay, they say. Everyone's my pal.
It is funny how people at TechCrunch think I'm the bully and not you.
I'm certainly not going to rebuke him of that.
All right, we should say something interesting because I have to go do another meeting. And
what's your other meeting?
I'm meeting with that guy, Michael Christopher, who always bails us out on audio at Panda Monthlies.
If he's got any idea on video quality for this show, you look a bit like somebody's taken a photograph in the movie The Ring, and you're going to die within 7 days. That doesn't sound good. You've probably not seen that. Judging by your lack of response, you've probably not seen the movie The Ring.
I don't like horror movies.
Next time you should go see it because you're going to laugh your ass off at that joke. That's my personal guarantee.
I actually showered today. I'm a little bummed out that
I think it was clear at the beginning.
Okay, good.
But then, much like the Beachman story, it's got blurrier and blurrier and blurrier to the point where it's barely like you're refusing to talk to me. All right. So you'll come to the dinner on the 2nd.
I will. So tell me your regret of the week. We haven't done that in a while.
My regret of the week.
It's a good thing we didn't do this last week. I had a lot of regrets last week.
I feel like spending a lot of my time... I regret that I had to spend as much time as I did arguing with idiots about the Beachman thing. It would have been nice if people who felt they had a score to settle with Pando hadn't sort of continually been jumping at Michael and at you, and I didn't feel like I wanted to argue with those idiots. So I kind of regret that I had to do that, but I don't regret doing it. Because I think, knowing something about the process behind the story, I think it's important that the truth get out. But more importantly, I think it's important that we realize that having Lanny Davis hired to attack a tech blog and try and put the tech blog out of business is a massively bad thing for all journalists.
Right.
And so I don't regret
that. Well, and also having to say, no, we're not going to talk to you. No, we're not going to give you any information, but we need you to retract all this. And in fact, we'll write it for you, put it under your byline.
And you can just
do this immediately and don't question us anymore. And
I think it's sad.
I don't understand why anyone thought that would be good.
Yeah, I think it's sad that other tech blogs said, I don't see why she wouldn't just do that.
It's really, that was the only depressing thing for me last week. I actually thought it was a little scary.
Well, that's kind of what I meant. So I regret that had to happen, but I don't regret anyway doing it. I regret not checking.
I hope they were just saying it because they wanted an opportunity to attack me. I hope they don't actually really believe that. Well, it's really scary.
I assume it's that, but the message is still the same. The message people hear is still the same. I regret that. What else do I regret? I regret, therefore, not being able to spend as much time on Not Safe for Work as I should have done. I'm quite jealous, though, honestly. I wish we'd had that level of fight. I wish Like, we wrote about Lanny Davis, for fuck's sake. We wrote about him defending Penn State, and he didn't have the courtesy to try and smear us in the LA Times. It just shows once again how much more important Pando is than Not Safe for Work. So I regret that.
Even you talk about our events more than your own.
I regret not bringing a full bottle of Diet Coke into this show because I'm really thirsty. What do you regret the most?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want like a Beachman related regret or not. I think the only thing I regret in my handling of the Beachman thing is that I didn't change the headline. Apparently that was something people really cared about, but like I wasn't actually trying to in any way like dig in my heels by not changing the headline. I just thought it would have been covering up our error and would have been revisionist history. So I was actually trying to be harder on us and not, we put update at the top and we put in the first graph, this is disputed. So I think it was unfortunate that that became such a sideshow and a sign of us sticking in our heels when I actually meant it as the opposite. So I think I sort of like hurt, you know, gave them a Lanny Davis talking point and hurt sort of Michael in the, you know.
Do you regret?
I think that's probably the only regret I have about it.
Do you regret? So we've talked already about how calling Beachman before the story came out would have been entirely fruitless, and it's shown they will not talk and they lie. So there's no doubt that it would have been fruitless. Let's not pretend otherwise. But do you regret not just going through or having Michael go through the motions, because it would have taken that entire talking point off the table? Do you think in future you will just, even when you've got a source with a history of lying, even when you'll just go, hi, we just want to confirm this?
I do, but, you know, I think the way we will handle it is the way that most, you know, publications handle, and frankly, the way we usually do. I think that what people miss in wanting to, like, make this a tidy black and white thing is there's a lot of publications who don't call people before publishing something, and they don't for a lot of reasons. For instance, there's a lot of companies where, I mean, we talk about the TechCrunch all the time, you know, whether or not we should actually call people, and have big debates about it, because there's a lot of companies where if it's proven that they have a better relationship with another news outlet and you're going to be harder on them, they will call and leak something if you give them the opportunity to comment, or they will put it up on their own blog, or, you know, and there typically is, you know, sort of a rule at most publications I've worked at of, you know, if either there's certain people that, you know, destroy, that abuse the right or the privilege of you calling them before publishing something, and, you know, and so you don't. I don't think it was that, like, thought out in this case. So I definitely think, you know, it's something that we'll always do. We'll probably do what most publications do, which is you have the story completely written and you call them right before publishing, so that you can say you called them right before publishing, even though it makes no difference.
Right.
And if people want us to engage in that ruse, which is, to be clear, what any publication would have done in this case.
Yeah.
If it's very important for us to participate in that ruse, we can do that.
Yeah, that's the point. Is literally what they're asking you to have done, and this is why it is just a talking point. Is what they're basically saying is what you should have done is 2 minutes before publishing, sent an email with the story, and then published, and then said at the time of press they hadn't commented. That's what everybody does. Like, it's not, you don't contact them 3 weeks before and have meetings.
Well, not
with them.
TechCrunch, you didn't call us.
Oh, well, that's what people are demanding you do. To be clear, it wasn't you should actually give them a chance to respond. It wasn't you should be fair. It was just you should have had that line in there.
And that's what I find really disingenuous. I think the other thing that I have a real problem with, and I've corrected Jason about this on his show, and this is another, like, really sneaky thing that Lanny Davis does well. He turned it into, you didn't call anyone at the company, you didn't call a board. That's flatly not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flatly not true.
Who you didn't call was the founder, but you did.
Different than the whole company and investors and the board. Very different.
No. You absolutely. That's the thing. Is the complaint that is fair is you didn't call the founder. The complaint that is not true is that you didn't call anyone at the company.
Right.
Interestingly, by the way, given that we know that one of the big dangers with contacting Beachman is that too much beforehand, is that they will leak it to another blog. Is Lanny Davis says in his book that that's one of the worst things that people do. It's one of the things that he says is unforgivable, is if you go to somebody to say, is this true? And then they leak it to the rest. One of his clients apparently suggested once, and he said, you must never do that. It's terrible.
Wait, was this also someone that he said you should make sure you tell the truth?
Tell the truth,
And
tell
you
it
talk
early,
to
tell it
reporters?
yourself. Don't represent Bill Clinton, he said. He said, no way get involved in cruise lines. Yeah, I mean, but his book is
I wonder if he has any regrets of the week. Not following my advice.
not checking how to spell Sarah Lacey.
All right, I've got a
He
meeting.
must be rebutting himself so hard for that now. All right. Enjoy your meeting, Sarah, and I'll see you on... Well, in fact, I'll see you this weekend for the Panda Retreat.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking
This
forward
is
to it.
exciting. Yeah, we can talk about that next week. We actually do a Wisest News next
You
week.
should email Lanny Davis 30 seconds before it starts and invite him, and when he doesn't reply, say he refused to show up. All right. Enjoy your meeting.
All right.
I'll see you at the weekend.
All right,
And
bye-bye.
join us next week on Why Isn't This News?